Romare Bearden by Deborah Akers. Table of Contents. Family. Page 3. 1911 to 1921. Family Travels. Page 4. 1922 to 1932. An Artist Begins. Page 6. 1932 to 1942. Searching for a Voice. Page 8. 1942 to 1952. Exploring New Horizons. Page 10. 1952 to 1962. Listen to the Music. Page 11. 1962 to 1988. Piecing It Together. Page 12. An Accomplished Life. Page 14. Family. Look carefully at this picture. It is a portrait of a family gathered to welcome a new baby. At first glance, this picture looks as if it were painted. But when you look more closely, you will discover that the rich, glorious colors used by the artist actually come from pasted pieces of paper. The picture is called Family. Like Romare Bearden, the artist who created the piece, Family is a colorful combination of many styles and influences. Family can tell you a lot about the life of Romare Bearden. 1911 to 1921. Family Travels. Romare Bearden was born in North Carolina in 1911. When he was 3 years old, his family decided to move to New York City. During that time, many African American families were moving from the South to northern cities like New York. They wanted to escape segregation and find work. The laws in the South had ruined many lives, and many people were ready for a fresh start. Many African Americans moved to neighborhoods like Harlem in New York City. During his childhood, Romare made many visits to his grandparents' home in North Carolina. These visits gave him many rich stories and pictures of life in the South that he would later use in his art. Romare's grandparents later moved to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he visited them there. In Pittsburgh, he saw another side of life. Rather than barns and farmland, he saw trains streak by crowded apartment buildings. When creating his art, Romare would often draw from his childhood experiences. 1922 to 1932. An Artist Begins. Romare's life in Harlem also gave him ideas. In the 1920s, Harlem had become a center for artists, musicians, and writers. This exciting time became known as the Harlem Renaissance. The Bearden home was a gathering place for artists and writers. In 1926, Romare had his first art lesson from a neighbor named Eugene Bailey. He also hung around the studio of a friend who was a sculptor. Living in Harlem gave Romare many ideas for his art. Romare took many art classes in college. In 1929, Romare began his college studies. Though he majored in education, he also was influenced by many African American artists. He became involved in many art and social groups and even joined a baseball team. During his college years, Romare also found the time to take several art classes at night. He studied drawing and painting, working hard to build his skills as an artist. 1932 to 1942. Searching for a Voice. During college, Romar was concerned about the rights of African Americans. He drew political cartoons for several student newspapers in order to share his feelings. In 1935, after graduating from New York University, Romar got a job as a social worker. He worked with people who had recently immigrated to the New York area. Even with a busy schedule, Romar continued to create art during his free time. Starting in 1935, Romar sent cartoons to the Baltimore Afro-American newspaper every week for 2 years. The newspaper was first published in 1892 by a former slave. Romar painted stories about his past. Romar had his first solo art show in Harlem in 1940. At the time, he was trying out many different styles. For example, sometimes he would model a piece after a painting by Pablo Picasso, one of his favorite artists. The show also included paintings based on Romar's experiences in New York and from his childhood. Romar was starting to find his style as an artist. 1942 to 1952. Exploring New Horizons. In the 1940s, Romar also began writing, and he published several books and articles. In 1950, Romar decided to take some time off from work to focus on his art. He went to Paris and attended a famous art school called the Sorbonne Institute. At the Sorbonne, he studied artistic styles from all over the world and met many famous artists. These colorful experiences were like a feast that fed Romar's appetite for art. Romar served in the United States Army during World War II. Because of this, the government paid for his studies at the Sorbonne. 1952 to 1962. Listen to the music. In the 1950s, Romar began to write music. He published several jazz songs that were performed by well-known singers. Music had always been a big part of Romar's life. In 1954, Romar married Nanette Rohan, a dancer who owned a dance company. Romar designed costumes and sets for many of her group's performances. This led him to work with other dance companies. Romar wrote jazz songs during the 1950s. 1962 to 1988. Piecing it together. Romar started to create new images by piecing together torn or cut photographs, newspapers, or other printed material. This new collage style was a combination of several images yanked from many different places that he then pasted onto a board. Sometimes Romar smeared the collage with a stroke of paint. This art form that Romar began later in life is what he is best known for today. Collage was an exciting new style for Romar. Saint Martin is a beautiful island. After Romar retired from his social work job in 1969, he was busier than ever. He showed his paintings, drawings, and collages in galleries and still found time for art and community organizations. In 1972, he and Nanette built a house on the Caribbean island of Saint Martin, where Nanette had grown up. They lived there part-time for many years. The bright colors of the island inspired many new pieces of Romar's art. An accomplished life. Romar Bearden died in 1988. Looking back over his life, it is not surprising that Romar grew up to use so many different types of art to tell the story of his life. It is truly amazing how just one man was able to create so many memorable paintings, collages, and even pieces of music. Romar must have filled every minute of his day with art. Romar never stopped exploring new artistic styles. Responding. Target vocabulary. Word builder. The word ruined has the same meaning as the word wrecked. What are some other pairs of words that have the same meaning? Copy and complete the chart below. Write about it. Text to self. What kind of art do you enjoy? Write a paragraph describing a painting, sculpture, or drawing that you like. Briefly describe the type of art form as well as the materials that were used to create it. Use one word from the word builder. Target vocabulary. Concerned. Feast. Glorious. Model. Ruined. Schedule. Target
Smeared.
strategy. Visualize. Studio. Use text details to form pictures in your mind of what you are reading. Word teaser. What vocabulary word rhymes with the part of the body a woodpecker uses to peck a tree with?